coming. We're the co-chairs of the capital needs assessment or advisory committee for Cnac. We're helping the city council come up with the recommendations for capital needs for the city. One of the topics that has come up is the potential of consolidating fire station number 2 and fire station number 5. One is on East Main and the other one is downtown. And we've got the city manager and one of our division chiefs from the fire department here to discuss the rationale behind those options. And then we would like to get your feedback on the citizens who come to the meeting when they're done with their presentation. So, Mr. Kiplinger.
So good morning. Many of you have heard this story several times. Some of you maybe have not heard it in its entirety. But about 3 years ago, we took a look and did an assessment of our facilities and realized that we had 3 buildings that were rapidly approaching 70 years old that were no longer effective at doing the job that we wanted them to do. We also realized that one of those buildings was on North Street at a very hard intersection. North at Austin, a very hard place to get in and out of, both for us and for the public, were pretty disruptive. And so we took that and realized that we had that challenge along with the flyover for I-69 that effectively cut off Fire Station 3 on the South Loop from a large portion of their district. It made it a longer commute, a longer travel distance to get to those areas. The other thing that we've known for a very long time is that we're severely understaffed in the fire department and that firefighters are very expensive. It costs us a lot of money to bring on a full-time firefighter, and that's a concern. Why is that a concern? Because our minimum staffing for firefighters on the fire trucks is 12 people plus a battalion chief. And so when you have 5 fire stations around town and you divide that by 12, the minimum staffing number, you end up with fire stations that only have 2 firefighters that are assigned to them for that day. A normal staffing is 3 or 4 firefighters a day. If we're at full staff, but when people call in sick or when people have funerals or when people are on vacation, we very, very often, in fact, most days, have at least a fire station that only has 2 firefighters assigned to it. Why does that matter? When a fire engine with 2 firefighters pulls up to a burning building or a burning car or burning anything, they're effectively useless until the second fire engine gets there. So on those days, we always have 2 fire engines from 2 different stations respond to a car fire or a dumpster fire or anything even minor like that. When we have a building fire, whether it's a trailer house or a shed behind your house, the fire department sends all 5 stations. So every firefighter on duty responds to that one event. When we have a car crash, we send an engine and a rescue truck. So 2 fire stations automatically respond to that event, regardless of where it is. And so that staffing challenge has created a real problem. So we took a look at what could we do the most cost-effective way to fix our facility challenges and our staffing challenge. And we kind of came up with an idea that if we merged Fire Station 2 and 5, the Central Fire Station and the one at Martin Luther King and Main Street, that are located physically there 1 mile apart, which is really too close together. If we merge them somewhere on the east side of University Drive, right around the intersection of Main and University, somewhere within eyesight of that location, that we could effectively redistribute people, and when we had a minimum staffing of 12, we could divide that number by 4, and we would never have less than 3 firefighters on a truck any day. There would never be a day that we would be less than 3 on a truck, even on our minimum staffing days. So we took a look at what the cost, recently, taking a look at what the cost of renovating and expanding, and the cost of building a central fire station is effectively less than renovating the downtown station and adding on and renovating Station 2. So why is Station 2 a problem? Well, the engine rooms are too small for modern fire trucks. We have to buy them smaller. It has 1 bathroom, which means it has a shower and a toilet and a sink. And we are not an all-male fire department. That was an inconvenience and it was uncomfortable when I worked there in the early 90s. This is 2023, and so that was effectively 30 years ago when I worked there, and it was terrible. And so I think Rusty probably worked there in the 60s, and he'll tell you it was terrible. It was never a good idea. So we had this idea, and so today Mr. Blackburn asked that we get together and just kind of have a conversation about that. Why did we come up with that idea? And just have a conversation about why do we want to do this now, and is it a good idea? So I will tell you that somewhere 14, 15 years ago, Lufkin did the same thing. They had 5 fire stations. They moved the fire station that was in their central business district to the edge of the central business district and went from having 5 stations to 4. It's very, very common practice now. Back in 1950 or 1909, when the original station was built, it was normal to have one in the middle and respond like the spoke of a wagon wheel and respond out. Modern practice is that it's better to be on the edge and respond in to those high density areas, and that's just a practice that's come to be known since sometime in the 70s. So it's not literally a new idea. It's just new for us. And so I'm happy to answer any questions or. So Michael is our acting chief today. The interim chief is at a wedding in Colorado, and so his sister would never have spoken to him again if he didn't go. And so Michael's here. Also, the Firefighters Association president's in the back of the room. He represents the firefighters that ride on the trucks. And he'll be more than happy, I think, to give you his blunt opinion. He's always done that with me, certainly. And then we've got Chief Sanders here, who sailed this ship for a long time before I got here. So
I need to come up there. Everybody hear me? Yes. Station 2 and Station 1 were built in the 50s, basically on the edge of the city limits. But one reason Station 2 and 5 are so close, back then you had standard shift trucks, non-synchro mesh transmissions, and you had a double clutch. I don't know what double clutching is, it's too long to go into it here. You can ask somebody or look it up. But if you missed a gear going up the hill, you stopped. And you put it in first gear or you back down the hill. When we crossed Mount Street, University Drive wasn't there, and we balled the jack as hard as we could, hoping nobody would pull out a Shawnee so you could make the top of the hill. That's why the stations are so close there. But Station 2, I came here in '66. Station 5's air conditioner system didn't work good. We had plumbing problems, electrical problems then. 68, 67, moved Station 2. Same issues out there. Almost no heat in wintertime. No cooling in the summertime. The stations were not maintained. When Station 4 was built, the city did not add any more firefighters, and that's what came up as a result of us having to have 2 people at a station, and really hindered operations. So there's a lot of catching up to do. Sometimes we got to bite the bullet. The stations have been bad. A lot of people say, well, you can't get rid of Station 5 downtown, Central Station, I like to call it. It can be moved, and it can be repurposed. A lot of asbestos has got to be taken out, a lot of stuff has got to be done. It'd be great. It's a hard building, thick brick walls. It could be, the IT department could be moved off the top of the, I shouldn't say this probably, fire trap. I have pictures a long time ago of how that building was under renovation, and it's pine lumber in there that's ready to burn.
From a
The
city hall.
IT out of there, huh?
You're talking about City Hall.
City Hall. Yeah, the back portion, the 4-story, it's got wood studs that are not plain. Got lath and plaster in there, and went over with sheetrock, and there's a draft from the bottom all the way up to the top. I always said if I was fire chief, if I ain't called a fire, we couldn't do anything in 10 minutes. Everybody's coming out. Call Goodyear, bring in the lamp, C&E, that pictures, because it's gonna come down. There's no way to stop it the way it's built. IT could be in the city hall, the water office area, or the old fire station. Dispatch could be in there. It's a much harder building, but it's gonna take renovation to do that. But having dispatch and computer ops right together would be good. That's my story. I think combining would be a good idea, especially for manpower and resources.
When was the last new fire station built?
When was the last new fire station built? 1984. How about high school?
Station 4.
Yes, sir. So, and what Chief Sanders was referring to is when they did that, we went from 4 stations to 5, and they just took the trucks and the people that were already working for the fire department and divided them up. So effectively, for the last 39 years, we've had lots of days where only 2 people were on a fire truck because of that dilution.
Would you say we're a little bit behind Buxton as far as stations? When was their last?
They rebuilt 3 stations in the last 15 or 16 years, so. Yeah. And then they have a fire station in a water tower that's relatively new, but an awful idea. If you haven't had an opportunity to see it, I highly encourage you to, because I don't think anybody that works there or here would ever want to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I have a question. I don't exactly know who to direct it to, because I don't think it's, I saw a presentation from these gentlemen last year about this. And if we have fire chief, if we have fire personnel that we believe in, we should know that they need this. So I don't know why this wasn't done already. Can somebody stand up and tell me why that was, why we didn't listen to them last year?
So, the good news is the capital needs advisory committee is working really hard.
We're looking at it. Are there any other comments on the consolidation of Station 2 and Station 5? That's what we're meeting about today. Mr. Moore?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to even come to a meeting like this. This group has really been doing a lot putting in a lot of effort in trying to come up with a solution. I like our city administration. I think staff is really great, and I like our city committee. We're in a good time with that. There's a couple of problems that I'm a little concerned about. Really, the main one is what I call the unofficial report that Mr. Peach did. This person has not been employed by the ISO organization for 20 years, yet he's prepared a report with the needs of an acquisition fire department without knowledge of the ISO organization, I presume. Possibly ISO agrees with the ideas, possibly not. I have suggested to leaders of the capital needs committee that the report and needs should be reviewed by ISO. Cnac should retain the ISO rating of 2. Do the unofficial report recommendations assure Cnac of a future 2 rating? The ISO review should be completed before launching into these unofficial recommendations that they've made of relocating buildings, demolishing other buildings. I have some comments concerning the specifics of this meeting, and I'm just talking about the relocation and the combination of 2 and 5. My objectives, which I think are reasonable. Sorry.
Thank you.
I have just jotted down some objectives that I believe are important. I want a better working environment for the personnel of the fire department, the firemen and so forth. That means dorms, kitchens, and that sort of thing. I want a better working condition, whatever it takes. Buildings need to be sized to meet the equipment needs. Adequate personnel to operate the equipment. It's not good to have a big piece of equipment go out with only 2 people on it. So personnel is super important. And in order to get this done, to obtain these objectives, I think for 2 and 5, buildings 2 and 5 need to be evaluated relative to needs. Evaluation needs to be performed by competent architects and engineers. Obtain cost estimates for 2 and 5 to be relocated or to be used, to be combined, or to be just simply remodeled. And these evaluations will be important to the decision-making process. They're not the only. It's not the only decision for I'm concerned. Nacogdoches has 2 areas of the city that have higher fire risk than others. The east side, now served by Station 2, and the downtown area served by Station 5. Moving existing stations out of these two high-risk areas is adding risk to emergency situations in these areas. The east side areas have smaller wood-framed homes, older electrical wiring, older natural gas piping, added potential for fire risk. A closely located Station 2 reduces risk. Downtown has older buildings with common walls to separate businesses, some masonry walls, some wood. Wood roof framing, rapid response is vital to structure fires in this situation. Such response is provided by Station 5. Moving the station from downtown is questionable. This closely related station reduces risk, and hopefully there's adequate water supply in the area in case an emergency comes up. I do not know that, if there's adequate water supply there or not. So the key to the downtown station situation for me, the key to unlock unlock this lock of this decision is to have it evaluated. If the station cannot be remodeled to meet the needs of better working conditions and equipment, then it just needs to be moved. Especially if the cost is unsatisfactory. But before anything is done, in my view, the ISO all this business should be cleared with the ISO. I mean, otherwise it seems like we're putting ourselves in the position of being designers of a fire system, and we're not in that position. We've had a couple of costs for the downtown station remodeling. One was published in the paper at $1.8 million. The architectural firm BRW Architects that came, they had $9.5 million. That's $8 million difference. It's quite a difference there. So anyhow, I thank you for your time. And one thing else that I do not have information on is the downtown master plan. I don't know what their thoughts are on this downtown station. So, but if the cost of remodeling of the downtown station is as compared to building a new station is about the same, then I think it might be moving the stations and getting a fresh start. Thank you.
I have a question. When the rain came in May, the bridge was closed on crossing Lanana toward downtown and Bonita. That bridge was closed. If the fire department was moved to East University, how would you get downtown? Both those bridges were closed. I was here that day. You were here.
So effectively, there are always times where there's a train across the road or there's an unusual event. Station 3 would respond to downtown because they're coming from a different direction. And that's effective. That's what we do. It's no different than if Station 5 happens to be at Godtel on a medical assist and something happens downtown. Station 2 and Station 3 are going to be the next end. So our system is built where we respond across the city again. So though there are going to be times that those things happen, but those are very, very rare events, with the exception of trains, which are very common events.
And also, if you take the asbestos out of the downtown fire department, don't you have to do that whether you rebuild the fire department or you make a restaurant out of it? I mean, the asbestos will have to go.
So I'm not an asbestos expert. I know that if it's encapsulated, it can remain in place, but if it's moved and becomes friable, it has to be removed. So it depends on what the renovation was and what actually happened.
Well, I mean, if you're moving IT to the fire station with the asbestos.
If they're going to disturb the asbestos, it would have to be moved. Yeah.
And you want to use City Hall in the process?
I haven't asked for that.
No.
That's up to your next city manager, sir.
Well, I got a
And I think he or she probably will ask for one.
Okay. But you said this is about downtown and Main Street, or I mean, moving 2 at 5. But you also mentioned that 259 out by, where 59 and 259, that would have to be rebuilt or something? And then the one on the south loop was inaccessible, so that would have to be moved?
The thought was trying to go through and address all of our needs in the most efficient manner, because I live here too, was to move Station 3 on the south loop at Old Lufkin Road to somewhere in the vicinity of South Fredonia or Highway 7 and the south loop.
How much does that cost?
I don't have that number in front of me, but it's been presented, so.
And then the one up on the north loop, where things are changing, was that moving?
The only station we have on the north loop is up by the high school.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Okay, so our recommendation is that we enlarge and remodel that station that's 39 years old.
And how much would that cost?
I don't have that number in front of me, but the Capital Needs Committee does.
Okay, so each one's zero so far.
Those numbers have been presented.
Okay. So somebody knows it.
I just don't know them off the top of my head, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna speak to a room of 40 people without that number.
Right, I got
So I'm gonna tell you my number is 0.
How much is the two stations? How much do they want for the two stations?
Mr. Bartlett did hand me that number before I stood up here. He estimates that 2 and 5, all in with land, architectural and engineering, and furniture, fixtures, and equipment, is about $9 million to combine those two stations. The estimate for renovating the downtown station and adding on and renovating to Station 2, which is at MLK and Main, is about $9.5 million. So it's effectively a little more money because of the nature of those old buildings. Yes, ma'am?
Do those figures count, destroying the old buildings or whatever?
No, so we wouldn't propose destroying the old buildings, but repurposing. I think adaptive reuse is the right answer for both of those buildings. They're very solid buildings. They're just very solid buildings. Again, there has not been any significant engineering done. An engineering survey was conducted where they identified what the buildings are. They took a look at some options with regard to what their estimated reconstruction would be. But again, there are a lot of steps between here and there. So these numbers are really fuzzy numbers, especially with the renovation numbers. On the new construction numbers, they were able to take the square footage that we have, the square footage they projected that we would need to have a building that would last 40 or 50 or 60 years like these have. And so they're able to put a little tighter pencil to that. And they use statewide averages when they did the per square foot cost for new construction. We think that our cost locally will come in a little under that. And I think that the Capital Need Advisory Committee, 2 weeks ago, they had a meeting, and I think that their number came in a little lower or right in line with the estimates that we got.
So anyway, I'm kind of concerned about the station on MLK and Main Street. That would remain city property unless if you all decide to sell it, maybe. Or what I'm wondering is there any possibility that could be made into a community room?
That every possibility in the world exists. So it's a city building. So the city owns it, so the city would have the opportunity to either repurpose it as a city facility or put a non-governmental organization in there. I know the food bank has plenty of room now, but they've done some expansion, but there are certainly other community organizations, or it could be sold to a private entity and get back on the tax rolls and start helping us do other projects around town. So I think all those are on the table. The city council will ultimately decide what that looks like.
Chief, I'd like to say something. For y'all that don't know me, my name is Cody Best. I'm told I talk so loud.
It's being recorded, so the people online.
So my name's Cody Best, and I haven't actually checked. The chief has his head down right now because I'm in official capacity today. But I represent the Firefighters Association, which is basically a group of us firefighters. We pay in dues every month. Somebody's house burns down, we have money and accounts set up where we can give them gift cards, hotel vouchers, any kind of stuff like that. We also have a scholarship fund that our members' wives and kids are allowed to use. With that being said, a lot of people don't realize, since we're just talking about the 2 and 5 joining here, I'm just going to stick to that. I work at Station 5 downtown. I have for 18 years now. And there's 2 people in that fire truck. We have a rescue and an engine down there. 2 o'clock in the morning, we catch a fire alarm at Greer's, which I've done probably 100 times over the course of my career. When we pull out of our station, we have a rescue gear, battalion chief is in front of it, and we have an engine. We wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, our gear is laying there. We have to get on the engine, because we don't have enough personnel for everything. We get our gear off the rescue truck, we put it on the engine. As we pull out on the main street to hang a right to go to Greer's, engine 2 is crossing University Drive. We're looking at them coming at us, which is a good thing because we have 2 people on the truck. They have 2 people on the truck. We can't do anything anyway if we were to get there first. But simply from a combining, I don't know the money, I don't know anything else. But from the standpoint of the firefighters on the truck, it's a good thing that they're that close because we've got 2 people on the truck and they've got 2 people on the truck. But when we literally turn on the main street and we're looking at their lights coming across University Drive, it's good in a way, but it's also kind of pointless to have them that close when you can combine, when you can have all those people in one spot and get there in the same amount of time. That's all I got. I'll answer any questions anybody has if you want, because I do speak kind of candidly, but I'm in official capacity today, so I gotta watch that.
That was the most sedate version of Cody I've ever seen. Yes, ma'am.
If the 2 were combined, would there be fewer firemen?
Our proposal is to keep the same number of people,
Okay.
to allow us to never go below 3 across on every fire truck. So each station, each of the 4 stations would have a minimum of 3 people out.
Tell me one.
Safety, safety. So for many years, there's been a state law that's called 2 in, 2 out. And so for every 2 firefighters that you have in a building, we by law have to have 2 firefighters outside that are equipped and ready to go rescue those firefighters. That's a state law. We have a running joke here that it's 2 in and 2 on the way. That's not what really happens. They have to literally wait. And generally speaking, on a house fire, the first firefighter doesn't go in the front door until the 3rd fire engine is on scene, because we just are that short staffed. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. If they hear a baby crying, they can go in. But if there's no evidence of people inside the building, we have to by law wait. And so, for the safety of our employees. Yes, Mr. Moore.
Keith, how many buildings downtown are sprinkled, would you say?
I'm gonna say 8.
How many would what percentage of buildings would that be? Half the buildings?
No, maybe 15% at best. And I'm guessing 8. The fire station is not sprinkled. I would argue that the downtown fire station is the most dangerous building downtown from a fire safety standpoint because we park 4 vehicles inside of it every night. And so, and it's an unsprinkled building as well. And it doesn't have a fire alarm.
If all the buildings were sprinkled, it would be lowering our risk of good business.
It's been almost 17 years that I've been back as your fire chief or now pretend city manager. And during that almost 17 years, I've advocated for that, for all the buildings downtown to be sprinkled, because I think that's an important thing. The city of Grapevine did that and sprinkled the vast majority of their buildings through incentives over the years. The city council has approved an incentive program where we're doing that. I think that there's some interest in the city council to do even more of that and to maybe expand that to maybe include things like electrical potentially, or some other things that will make the buildings safer downtown. And so Mr. Blackburn has offered to try to look at some philanthropy and private investment in those fire sprinklers in the downtown buildings. But yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see all of them sprinkled. I think Mr. Sloan knows exactly how much I want to see them all sprinkled, because he's done some beautiful jobs downtown, and he knows that I think that's important because that's how we save our downtown. The city hall building, if every firefighter was on duty and a whole other shift came in off duty, the city hall building is going to burn to the ground. We can't do it. There's not enough people. A first alarm house fire in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, 25 firefighters show up. A first alarm house fire in Houston, 25 firefighters show up. In Nacogdoches, there are 13 on duty. That's the reality. Lufkin will come and they'll send us an engine with 3 people on it, and it'll be here in 35 minutes. Our volunteer partners from the unincorporated areas will come and help us, but we don't know what we're going to get, or who we're going to get, or how many we're going to get, or what level of training they have. So we have to be we have to be very careful about sending them into those immediately dangerous environments because we don't know what we get. Some of them are fantastic, absolutely, and they're well trained. Some of them are not, frankly. And so with our career firefighters, we know exactly what we get and how far we can push them without endangering them. Yes, sir.
It seems like a stretch to me, excuse me, with a big piece of equipment rolling out with only 2 people on it. It seemed like one person would have to take care of the engine, get whatever, and only leaves only one person to deal with the, maybe getting some hoses out and everything. Would it be, worth, a little more thought having smaller, vehicles, in Austin? I know they have a F-550 Ford, truck that I've seen that, real well equipped, having smaller vehicles downtown for real quick, rapid response with less, with smaller personnel to a downtown situation where they could really, until someone else can come.
So those places that you see that run those apparatus are places that have sufficient staffing to run additional trucks. So it's a both and, not an either or. The fire trucks that we have are the size they are so that they can carry all of the equipment that covers 95% of every call that we respond to. So a fire engine in Nacogdoches has all of the things you need for 95% of the calls. And so the driver engineer is a specific position. His job is to operate the apparatus and to provide safety for the scene. So if they pull up at a car wreck, he blocks traffic, or that individual blocks traffic, and they provide the tools and equipment necessary. I wouldn't advocate for us putting people on smaller fire trucks because they frankly don't have room for all the things you need for that 95 percentile. When they're out in the trucks, out in the community, weed eating around fire hydrants or doing whatever they're doing, those firefighters have all the tools they need for the next call that they're gonna get assigned to. And so they carry 500 gallons of water. They have 1,500 to 2,000 gallon per minute pumps. That 500 gallons of water will effectively give them 2 or 3 minutes for that driver engineer to hook the truck to a fire hydrant. And so it allows us to flow water and to initially start knocking that fire down, be it a car fire or a building fire or whatever it is. So those solutions do make sense in some bigger cities, but for us it would just mean adding more trucks, and they would be jumping around between trucks more, and so the cost would be greater, in my analysis. And I've only been doing this about 35 years, so. But I love that idea, so if you could hire me a few more people, I'd put 2 guys on a quick response truck today.
Have you asked the downtown people how they feel about you moving?
I think that's the conversation we're having today.
That's the purpose of today's meeting, was for the downtown people to give
That's why
feedback.
it's at 8:30 in the morning,
Oh,
to try to get the downtown merchants before they have to go to work.
Jessica?
And the downtown.
One good thing to add as far as the downtown merchants, don't forget why. Let's do my computer.
what was it? Using their general feelings?
Sorry, one thing to add about talking to the downtown merchants, we have spoken to the Main Street Advisory Board, which kind of effectively represents merchants, and they all have a stake in it. And also, Chief Self and who came with you? Mike Brown, came and spoke to the downtown merchants at a merchant meeting probably 8 months ago, as our regular, 8 months ago, a year ago, something like that. I can look at the date. But came and spoke to the merchants. We had probably 25 people showed up at our normal every other month merchant meeting, which is 8:45 in the morning at the CVB. It's a time and date they picked out just because it's before they open their store. So they did hear the presentation, ask questions, and have given some feedback since then. So I just want to answer that one.
But that is one, we started this meeting originally because Philip Blackburn and I thought it would be advantageous for us to meet with the downtown merchants before our committees did a lot of discussing. Because then once it hit the streets, then it would be information that probably might not be complete. So we first said we would do the downtown, and then Philip had a good idea, so well, let's invite the northeast and the southwest wards. No, southeast, northwest, because those would be the ones, the people that might be most affected. But we have already set the meeting with the downtown merchants for this day. the most convenient hour for the downtown merchants.
Will we have another meeting then for the southeast and southwest areas?
No, that's what this is also.
This is?
Unless there is one that is later called for a meeting.
So to give you some, our committee has been looking at capital needs improvements for the city of Natchitoches since January. And one of the issues is the condition and rehabilitation of our fire stations. There are lots of options. We've got 5 or 6 different options we're looking at with the fire departments. One of the one point that came up is, on the contention, is the potential of consolidating fire station number 2 and fire station number 5. And we had heard as a committee that some of the downtown merchants would be upset if fire station number 5, Central Station, was relocated. We've heard that some residents who were near fire station number 2 would be upset if that fire station was relocated. So we're seeking feedback from the residents of those areas. Is that going to upset anyone, or are the people in those areas in favor of it? And I think City Manager Kipling has laid out the case in terms of why that option is being considered as one of many options. So we're just trying to get feedback from the community on whether or not those 2 stations should or should not be combined.
I'm just curious, how many people in this room are from the area around the fire station? 2? 2. Okay, so you've got 2 people, 3, 4.
Johnny, you can raise your hand. We don't have that now.
I just am not sure that it was advertised very well in those areas. And I think if there were, I don't know, maybe you all think it was advertised, but I just wonder if there should be another meeting targeting the residential.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And it's kind of been the advertising deal. It's kind of been like that for the past 3 years. We've been talking about that. We've had open houses at the fire stations. We open the doors to let people in and nobody comes by. So it's kind of one of those things that it's the same people every time. So we have been talking about it for a long
Thanks,
time.
Cody. And Councilman Roy Bolden is working on a time and date for the residents that live in and around fire station number 2. And once I don't know if you know Councilman Roy Bolden.
I do, but I just thought you said that there wouldn't be another meeting.
I never said that, no ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I told, and what Mrs. McDonald just presented was that this meeting was originally scheduled for downtown merchants, and then it was expanded.
Okay.
And we're gonna have another meeting at some date and time in the future, don't know when, but before July the 11th, because that's when our committee has to give information to the city council. Yes, ma'am.
So what I understand from you is the advisory committee has several options, and the first option you're looking at is the 2 and 5 situation. Is that?
No, that's just one of many. We're looking, here are the options that our committee is looking at. With the committee is unanimous that something needs to be done to fix the fire station infrastructure.
Okay.
So we have lots of options. One option is remodel all the fire stations. That may or may not scratch the issues.
Right.
One option is to relocate some of the other fire stations to provide better response times. Another option is to consolidate Station 2 and Station 5. That's another option that we're looking at. And then there's lots of variations on the theme of those options.
Okay.
And our job is to make a recommendation to the city council on what we think
firemen know what we need. They know that we're stuck in the fifties right now, the fifties and the seventies. They know. I put a lot of faith in people that are professionals in an area. So to me, their opinion needs to hold weight when you put that out there. You need to say, this is the way firehouses are designed.
Yes, ma'am. Part of the problem has to do with money. And the city of Nacogdoches isn't going to support a $280 or $380 bond. If everything that everyone that's a professional was given what they asked for, the city doesn't have enough. We can't afford that.
You're not just talking fire
I'm not talking just fire stations. You know, Mr. Brand back has lots of things he wants for parks. The city engineers have lots of things they want for city engineering.
And I have a lot of, I'm in the arts. Nobody puts money in the arts. I get it.
Right. So
I get it, and I love the parks, and I love all
But-
those beautiful
yeah.
things, but this is safety.
It
This is our.
is. No one on our committee is discounting anything the firemen are asking for.
Okay. That's what's
limited.
important to me. I
Right.
feel like you were talking about those voters that are just I want them to know that it's like it's in safety, that they're being upset. They're being upset with the idea that we're spending money on our safety and security.
I don't think anyone's upset that, I think everyone on our committee and everyone in the city
I'm not
wants to
talking
have,
about that.
even citizens, I don't think there's anyone that wants to do harm to the fire department. I think that people want to make sure that the city is being responsible with the limited dollars that we have to get the most bang for the buck. And we have to do our due diligence as a committee to get feedback from everyone that's involved. So, thanks for
There is a general perception that the safest place to be is next door to a firehouse. The reality is that as your fire chief, I want to be 3 minutes from 2 fire stations. And I want to be 4 minutes from 3 fire stations. Because the odds are good that those firefighters won't be in-house the day that the building catches on fire. And so sometimes they're closer because they're driving up North Street and they can just make a right-hand turn and they're on top of the fire. Somebody asked me years ago, a citizen called when I hadn't been the chief here about 45 minutes, and they were upset that the firefighters were at Kroger shopping. And they started off thinking that the city was paying for their meals, which is not real, but they were buying groceries. And when he finished ranting and raving, my comment back to him was, "Sir, I've done CPR on 3 people in front of the pharmacy at Kroger, and I have never done CPR on anybody at fire station number 5. So those firefighters being at Kroger made pretty good sense, because the odds were much better that they were going to be needed at Kroger than at their own firehouse. And so those response times do play an impact, and people, when they see the fire station move right, somebody's going to be further away and somebody's going to be a little closer, and that's a reality. And it does, like John said, it does, it may aggravate people or it may upset people because that change is happening. So anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my name is Elizabeth, and I'm actually one of the community members that is affected by the potential merge of 2 and 5. I live out 21 East. I'm at the very edge of the city limits, so I'm furthest away from any station. I want to say first and foremost, I support the merging of them because I've been there. Like I went with the Galvani's committee to every single fire station. It's deplorable, in my opinion. It's gross, it's disgusting, and I think that our people who are like serving us and putting themselves in the most dangerous, like one of the most dangerous positions, should be able to live safely in those fire stations when they're there. They should be comfortable. They should have room to work out. They should have, somewhere to sleep if they need to. They should have sufficient seating for all of them. So I definitely support the merge because I know what the current stations are. That being said, I realize like merging them too would put them in a different location, maybe a little further away from me, but I'm not concerned about that because I also know that there's going to be more people on one single apparatus, like you said, and I would hope and I would encourage my Councilman Brewer and anyone else that could, that we still need to hire more firefighters so that we can have those 4 people that we need on any apparatus, so that when they get to any location, they can immediately start doing everything that they need to do and not waiting for another, there's more people to come. That's, I mean, like, that's the biggest for me, like, why are we making our firefighters wait to start saving people or saving buildings or whatever? I don't understand that. I'm a homeowner, I'm a taxpayer, we own a business. My husband rents space downtown, so I am fully invested in both of these. And while I think that Station 5, the downtown station, is really cool, I think it's really neat to have like a station downtown. I also know that it's not super effective because it's in a tight space streetwise. It is affected by any and all festivals that happen downtown. Why keep that when there's another option that gets them out of those tight situations and makes them have to leave their station when the roads are closed? So, there's within.
My name is Michael South. I'm the interim assistant fire chief at this time. And first, I just want to thank all the Capital Needs Committee members. Hearing that y'all are unanimous in doing something for the fire department on behalf of the entire fire department, we thank you for that. Seeing today that we have several of our council members here, I want to thank you for that. I want to tell a short story, if I could, to address something that's not been brought up today. And my point for this is to encourage you to stay the course to do something for the members of this department. In 2000, I was working for Nacogdoches County EMS, my old partners back there, and I was sitting out back at the fire station with a captain named Dean Crisp. And Dean talked me into going to the fire academy. Fast forward a couple of years, in 2003, the day that I tested for the Nacogdoches Fire Department, we were fixing to go do the physical ability test, and Captain Jerry Beverly was standing out front, and I was older than everybody I was testing against. And Jerry told me, he goes, go over there to the field and show those young boys how it's done. And so in 2003, I got hired, and the gentleman that I replaced, Dave Porter, who was a captain that retired, all three of those gentlemen passed away from lung cancer after they left the Nacogdoches Fire Department. The generation before us paid a price because of the cancer issues and the carcinogens that are within our fire department. Y'all have the Capital Needs Committee has toured the fire stations. The members of council have toured the fire stations. Y'all have seen the needs. We have made minor improvements to each station. As we made the tour several months ago, when we got to Station 4, I was giving a small tour of the gear room that was added on there at that station. And I heard one of the committee members make the comment, the guys did this here too, didn't they? All the improvements that have been made to stop the carcinogens, to protect our gear and such, have been done by the members of our fire department. Who knows what the cost will be to my generation? I mean, who knows the guys that I've came up with and have served with for 20 years, what our lives will be like after we retire from this department. I speak today on behalf of the fact that Saturday we tested for new firefighters. We're looking at hiring for 2. I would love to know that the generations coming after me have a safer environment to work in. And that is in the hands of the Cnac committee, that's in the hands of our council. Thank you for what you've done. But I encourage you to stay the course with this and help the firefighters in Nacogdoches. We appreciate what you've done, but please stay the course and help us out as far as to the carcinogens and such, and our safety after our careers with this fire department. Thank you.
I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding here in that somehow or another when you ask questions here, when you ask questions here, there seems to be an opinion that you're against everything. The reality is what we're trying to do is to get a bond that will pass. And if the bond doesn't have the support of the city, of the people downtown, who are not truly, there's a few people here, but not all the city owners are down here. But if you don't get that, if we don't come together and we don't agree on things and we don't find common ground here, the city of Nacogdoches will not pass the bond and there'll be no money for any of that. So that's what we're trying to do. So I don't think you should feel personally insulted
all of the exhaustive work that's been done by the committee, which is made up of just everyday citizens, to help do exactly what we've been doing here. So I'll help show you the website.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, are there any other questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know, I guess from Jessica, what did the downtown merchants say? Like, did they have any concerns? Like, how did they feel about moving?
So we had about 25 people that came to that meeting, and it represented probably 15 businesses or so. I'd have to go back and look at our attendance list. But the main questions were, where would the fire station be moved? And we kind of told them we're looking somewhere on University, so it'd still have a fast response time, but didn't have an exact location because we hadn't gotten that far yet. And the other main question was, are we going to tear down the old building? And we gave them a resounding no. It's in the downtown historic district, so tearing down the station is not an option. It is an option to sell it to a different entity, to repurpose it, but those are really the main two questions. They had a few questions about staffing, and we explained why we wait when there's 2 firemen, we wait till there's a 3rd one so they can enter buildings, things of that nature. So it was a lot of the same questions y'all had today, but the main thing was staffing, where would the station be moved to, and would the old station be torn down?
And so answering those questions, were they for a merger of 2 and 5?
They seemed favorable. We didn't ask for like a vote or anything of that nature, but they didn't have any additional questions, and no one seemed upset when they left, but we didn't ask for a vote or resolution or anything like that. But they seemed to understand what we were saying.
Okay, that's what I'm not understanding, I guess, and that I'm just a city person, I'm hearing, it said that, oh, there's, downtown merchants that are against this, and there's city people that live there in the, downtown area that are against this. But now I'm hearing from you that they're not against this.
Well, and I
As a
can't.
majority, or who shows up to meetings, which is, those are the people that are active,
Yeah, and I
I'm
can't.
understanding this.
Yeah, and I can't speak for everyone, of course, and there may be downtown merchants that are still upset about this, don't want to move the station, but the ones that have come and spoken to me, I think if you've talked to Tori Huddleston, who is now our Main Street manager, I was doing it when I was Main Street manager, the ones that I've talked to are not upset. That doesn't mean they're not upset ones, but the ones that have come and engaged seem to be favorable, but again, I can't speak for everybody.
Why isn't there the people that are, maybe not all against it, but have concerns, why aren't they here?
They're refusing to be educated.
Telling us why they're concerned so that we can either address them or take them into consideration.
That's honestly not a question I can answer. I think that's more of a philosophical one. I don't know if I can answer that one.
But that's question of, is that actually a real person? Or is that real?
Who pays for the bond?
Who pays for the bond? The city of the citizens, taxpayers.
Citizens of Nacogdoches.
The taxpayers of Nacogdoches.
How many people here live within the city limits?
Anybody here live outside the city limits? I think there's nobody here from one gentleman in the back, but everybody else is city. Sure,
In the
good
game,
question.
If you live in the city, you're gonna pay for this bond.
Sure,
And that's why
Absolutely.
we should be here.
absolutely. Any other questions?
So on behalf of the Cnac committee, I want to thank everyone for coming. Johnny, I'm going to call you out because you do own a lot of buildings downtown. What are your thoughts on the potential consolidation?
My thoughts are, I have all the faith in the world in the fire department. They have all the knowledge and done all the research, they should know what they need. Also, I have a lot of faith in the city council, they should be able to represent us and come up with what we need as far as a bond or what needs to be done. Fire department needs money, the police department needs money, they protect us, I think they should do what they need first. I'm a little concerned, but if the fire department says they can protect us 20 miles away better than they can right next door to us, I'm in favor of it. I believe they know what they're doing, and they are far better at deciding what to do than I am. They have all the information, and they should know what they're doing.
All right, thank you. Any other comments before we wrap the meeting up? Yes, sir.
I know there have been questions about where the Cnac information is. The URL, if you want to write it down, is knactex, nactx.us /Cnac, CNAC. All the information that the committee has done is on that
or you can do what I do and go to Google and type Nacogdoches Cnac, and it will be the first link that shows up on the Google search. If there's no more comments regarding the potential merger of Stations 2 and Station 5, thank you very much, everyone, for coming to this meeting.